We're going to talk about when you're going to do your group in the week, where you're going to do your group, and what is this group going to look like. I'm going to cover all of that right now. First up is when. Let's talk about the day of the week and the time. In doing so, you need to consider, what is your demographic? I live in an area full of commuters. I know that people need time to get off of 95. They need time to grab food. They might want to get to their house and their family first before they join and arrive us. Or if I'm working with young adults, their schedule is totally different. Example, we might notice that younger people, it's easy for them to show up late in the evening at 7 o'clock, and they might prefer the weekends, whereas older people, they may really enjoy Sunday morning bright and early, and they like that kind of classroom environment, and that works best for them because driving late at night doesn't work well with their eyesight. And so I want you to be considerate, like, what is the demographic that is on your heart? Consider that audience. It's really important that you already have in mind, like, who is the ideal people that are coming to the group that God's put on your heart. And when you think about that ideal group, it's not so much about your schedule as much as theirs. Certainly, you need to make sure that you can commit and you can show up and you can do this consistently. However, you may be able to do a number of different days throughout the week, but you favor one. If that one isn't the best for the majority of your demographic that you want to reach, then you need to be willing to sacrifice a little bit to win at this. So we talked about when. Now let's talk a little bit about where. You may realize that there are pros and cons with meeting at the church, at the home, or at public spaces. Oftentimes, church environments, they feel very classroom oriented, and what you're going to notice is that classroom oriented groups tend to have a classroom feel, and usually they're in rows, they're in chairs, it's very cold feeling, and the environment is not as conducive to great connection or to great discussion. And if you want to have a great group, you want to win at discussion and be able to see everybody in a group type environment, not a classroom environment. However, where the ideal is lacking, grace abounds, and a classroom will certainly work. It has for so many. And classroom may just be the ideal type of environment if you're going to be teaching on doctrines and things where you just need to be able to stand up and preach and share, and you have your notes, and that is the goal and the aim. Let me add that there is always an opportunity and consideration to say, hey, can I restructure? Can I reformat the church room that's available to me? Because sometimes there's not a great house environment to meet at, and there's not public spaces that work well, but there is a church with tables and chairs set up, and you may be able to do something creative. You could always talk with your church about how you could reset up that room to make it more engaging and intimate and a place where people can sit down and relax. Or, of course, instead of doing tables and chairs and rows, you can always take it all apart and restructure it in a circle so that, again, it's more group-oriented and allows everybody to share and engage with one another in an intimate environment. In most groups environments, we're looking for something a little bit more intimate where we can hang out, maybe eat some food, get to know one another. And homes work beautifully for this, right? We want a nice open area, some couches. We can certainly have people on chairs spread out. We can get creative with seating, but a home environment in that circle kind of atmosphere, it can be crowded. Right? You can have 5 people or 20 people in a home. I've seen all of that done really well, really crowded, and people love it and they engage, and there's room for them to have a number of side conversations and then huddle up well. If we're not able to do the home environment and we don't prefer the church office kind of feel, classroom environment, then we can certainly consider something like a coffee house, a Starbucks, a Panera, or a local breakfast joint, or a place where there's a room that you can maybe reserve out on a weekly basis. I've been a part of a men's group for a couple years in a Panera, and we've absolutely loved it. We were able to get 13 to 18 guys on a huge table at 6 a.m. every morning. Everybody can go in and out as they need to, grab their coffee, grab their food, meet up, hang out, and it wasn't too loud, and it was a great space for us still to be able to connect with one another a little bit, grab some coffee, and then all be able to connect in on a devotional and even pray for one another and break out. Let me share with you why I lean a little bit further away from church spaces for groups and a little bit more into the home and public spaces. I do believe that home, there's just something real about getting to see you in real life and taking off a little bit of that mask and that Sunday best layer and being able to see that you're real people too. And homes provide a space to get to know one another and connect, and to be able to actually relax and be able to lean back a little bit and create spaces where the Holy Spirit can lead and there's enough space and room for people to be able to engage well. When we talk about the public spaces, I think that the most I've ever been able to engage with new people because of a group has been a public space. Not only do I get to invite people to sign up and people get to find us because we are meeting together, but we also just get to meet people in our community because they see us on the regular. We get to meet people in our own community walking by. People are watching, they wonder what we're doing, and there's been so many awesome, natural, good conversations that have happened as a result of being in public spaces where people get to see and hear and watch us in action, hanging out with one another and encouraging one another. When choosing the location that you're going to be, it's important to consider seating. And when we talk about seating, let's just narrow down, like, how many people do you want in your group? Do you think that 5 people is just the right amount of people, 10 people, 15, 20? Maybe you just want to see how many people you can get and then you'll split and multiply. Whatever the case is, it is important that you consider seating, and there's a metric, there is a show up rate that I think you should be aware of when thinking about seating too. And that is, on average, maybe not the first night if you do a launch really well, which we're going to talk about in the following video, but on average, you're going to see anywhere from 20, maybe even 30% of a no-show rate. And it's not you. Now, if it's worse than that, it could be some communication, some organization. However, in most cases, life happens to people, right? And it could be that, their kids are sick, they're running late from work, they weren't able to make it, they simply forgot. There's a lot of different reasons that are always going to be a part of a group setting that keep people from all being able to make it on the same night and same event. If you're thinking to lead your group well and you really want high energy, high engagement in order to have that environment, that ideal that you have, the vision in your mind, let's just say you want to have 10 people regularly, then you definitely need to aim for 12, 13 people regularly, like on that sign up list. And if there's 12, 13, 14 people, more often than not, you're going to end somewhere in that 10 range on average. If you are planning to do your group at a house or at a coffee house, just keep this in mind because you want to grow your group as much as you can. And I would tend to say, like, hey, if you could pull every single chair together at your house and the most you could literally take on is 18 people, but you want to generally have 15, then definitely open it up to 18 and you'll probably be at 15 more often than not. And if that one night comes when everybody shows up, you can still seat everybody. We talked a little bit about the where, and once you've considered, like, where do you want to go? Is it your house, a friend's house, the host house? Is it a coffee house or a restaurant or the classroom at the church? It's so important that you scout it out. I want you to have already been there on that same day of the week and the time, and to go ahead and see how does it feel there. The last thing you want to do is commit to going to someone else's house and then you regret it for the entire semester because that person's dog wouldn't stop barking. Or you don't want to go to this coffee house not knowing that, man, it's actually way too loud because we're meeting there at like the peak hour and nobody could hear one another. So it's really important that you do go scout it out, that you do consider what it looks like, how does it feel, will the environment be conducive to the outcome that you want to have where people are going to be able to connect and engage. To recap, we talked about the when, the where, what it's going to look like, and we brought it into things like seating, the environment that we want to be in that we feel like is going to be most conducive to the outcome of the group that we want. If you want intimacy, high engagement, being able to really be able to get connected to one another and not be interrupted, then you may definitely want to be more in a home environment that's conducive to those goals. If you want to do much more teaching and you're wanting to do more of a lecture style, you're certainly going to want to be in a classroom. And if you want to be more in the community and opportunities to naturally, organically engage with new people, then certainly being in public places that are still conducive to the right environment to let people connect would work really well for that goal too. The final items that I don't want you to forget about when you're talking about the when, where, and what is going to be things like childcare. Are you going to have childcare? Yes or no? What does that look like? Make sure you spell it out for people. Food. Can people buy food there? Do they need to bring it with them? Make sure that you communicate well what's expected and, can they come even if they don't bring food? All of that. And then, of course, what to expect, what kind of environment, where can they park, how do they find it? Do they just open the door and come on in? All of those details, go ahead and think through and then make sure that you spell it out when you share the description of your group and then follow up with people as they sign up. Now we're going to talk about the format and the flow, the culture that you want to have for your group in the following video, so join me there.